All right. So, did you see the post that I posted another chapter today? We're just going to read that.
Okay.
This is an amazing chapter. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So, here's a little backstory to these concepts here. Prakata Lila is like the Vrindavan pastimes in the material world,
Hmm.
where Krishna and the gopis had their pastimes, and he went to Dwarka. He went to Mathura and then he went to Dwarka, and the gopis were all heartbroken. They were feeling all kinds of separation, and so he promised he would come back. And this isn't in the Bhagavatam, but he did come back, and he wound up all his Prakata pastime after he killed Dantavakra. Dantavakra is a demon, and he met him there at the gate at Mathura, and he killed him, and then he put all of the Rajabasis on his chariot, all of them, because time and space is relative, and Krishna is unlimited, so it doesn't, he doesn't abide by normal rules. So you can put all of the residents of Vrindavan on his chariot, the same one he used for the Kurukshetra war, and then he took them all to the Aprakata Prakash, which is the Golok of Vrindavan. And it was just like a smooth transition. They're the same. They're exactly the same pastimes going on here and there on Earth, but in the spiritual world, all the gopis are married to Krishna, and in the material world, they're cowherd women that are already married to somebody else, but not really because those are actually Maya incarnations. But anyway, this chapter explains all that, how both of these leelas, both of these pastimes and these two different prakashas or abodes are exactly the same.
I have a question. Is this
Sure.
these other pastimes, are these from the Padma Purana?
Yeah, this is from the Padma Purana. I read that. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask you that. The next thing I was gonna ask is, you've read that, haven't you?
yeah, my audiobook mentor, he said he works for the BBT, and he said he only knows like one person in the whole world that has read the entire Padma Purana
Oh
because
wow.
the Bhagavatam has 17,000 verses, but the Padma Purana has 50,000.
Oh wow. So it's like
So he
it's
said,
like a double,
I'd really
almost
like it if
triple.
you could, this is not available to devotees very much. So if you could read that, that would be a great service to make that more accessible because nobody reads, like 50,000 verses,
I
They
was
get
gonna ask you. Oh,
seconds
I'm sorry.
YouTube and stuff.
I want to ask you, like, 'cause I'm interested in reading the Puranas, or at least the Sattvic Puranas. And
Yeah, the
you've
Satvika
you
Puranas are the Vishnu Purana and the Padma Purana. The Padma Purana is Vishnu. It's
so
about
you've
Vishnu.
read, how many of those have you made into audiobooks?
I've made them both into audiobooks. The Padma Purana
Okay.
and the Vishnu Purana. And
Do you plan on doing any more?
I don't know. It depends on what my spiritual mentor. There's a lot of different pranas, and they're written according to the modes of nature. And so there's some tamasic, like mode of ignorance type of Puranas, and
Hmm.
then there's mode of passion Puranas, and then there's the mode of goodness Puranas, which are mostly in regard to Vishnu.
Yeah. I'm really interested in hearing uh, all the Puranas actually, but like, I'm not sure if that's really realistic, but at least the Sattvika Puranas are, there's like a third of the 18. So it'd be probably like, I don't know how many, it's like six Puranas, or maybe Sattvika.
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah. I'm going to ask my mentor. His name is Adi Purusha. He's from New York City. He's from Ukraine. He's kind of
mhm.
having a hard time right now for obvious reasons. His parents live in Western Ukraine, but that, you know, I just can't believe what happened to that place, you know. And but I donated some money to just when it started, you know. And I was asking him, do you think, he was amassing troops along the border there? His parents live in Western Ukraine, which is not the center. Mostly the Russians invaded the Eastern Front on the eastern side of Ukraine and took over that land there. But his parents live in Western side, and so they weren't as affected. But I was asking him, do you think that they'll invade? Because he was amassing all these troops on the border. And he said, I think 60-40 he's not going to invade. 60% chance he's not going to invade. And I kind of figured if you're going to do all that and amass your troops, they're going to invade, you know. And of course they did. And now like 500,000 people are dead, mostly on the Russian side. But uh,
Wow, I haven't heard anything about this.
yeah, I mean it's a catastrophe. And then he went to the White House the other day and uh, anyway, I don't want to get into politics. This is not the place or time for politics. We're going to read the Padma Purana now, and let's start at the.
Well, I have one more question about your Padma Purana. About approximately how long did it take you to read the thing?
Um. Oh, geez. Well, see, it wasn't as long as the Bhagavatam because the Padma Purana doesn't have purports.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the verses. And the
Just
Padma
the
Purana is really interesting though because it has so many really strange pastimes that are wild, you know. Arjuna, he became a gopi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he became a
Well, this
gopi.
is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard that before. Krishna's always like full of surprises. Anyway, we're going to read this here. You can, I'll read the first two paragraphs and we'll just read two paragraphs or one paragraph at a time, whatever. But I'll read the
Okay.
first two paragraphs. And this is Anuccheda 182. The bhava and the prakata and aprakata leelas is the same. In this way, the reconciliation of the prakata and aprakata leelas has been demonstrated. In the Uttara Kanda, that's the last part of the Padma Purana, these two enactments are referred to by the terms leela, Bhagwan's divine play, and bhoga, the eternal establishment of his inherent experiential capacity, respectively. Bhagavan's eternal abidance in his own being, nitya stiti, is known as bhoga, whereas at times he withdraws his lila, Padma Purana 6.227.10. By this definition, that which he occasionally withdraws is known as lila. Lila means pastimes. The bhava associated with the prakata lila is more dynamic because it supports a wide variety of Leelas marked by separation, union, and so on. This is the material realm. So Krishna goes somewhere and then he comes back, and in the Goloka Vrindavan, if he even goes behind a tree, the residents of Vrindavan are like freaking out because they can't bear to be one, in the blink. The gopis were cursing Brahma for creating eyelids. He said he's a stupid creator, because he created eyelids, and when you blink your eyes, you can't see Krishna. So what's the use of a stupid creator? You know? So anyway, separation, union, and so on. On this account, even after the two leelas have, when it says mas, that means leelas. There's so many uh, uh, errors in this optical character recognition. Two Leelas have been fused into one. The self-identity, Abhimana, of Krishna's associates that was formerly immersed in the Prakata Leela is carried forth into the Aprakata Leela. In other words, the unmanifest Goloka Vrindavan. In this regard, the self-identity belongs to the Yadavas, whose bhava is mixed with the awareness of his majesty, Aishvarya Gyan, is indeed possible in the following manner. And see, now he talks about the Leelas, the how the Yadavas merged into the Aprakata Leela with Krishna's. You can read this paragraph here. This Bhagavan.
This Bhagavan, who is called Sri Krishna, is the ruler of us all, whose lives are perpetually offered to him alone, to enable us to relish the unprecedented wonders of concentrated bliss by showering us with the nectar of multifarious leelas. He graced us, his own kinsfolk, by taking birth in the house of Sri Anakandundubi, the crest jewel of the Yadavas, who is eternally endowed with parental love. Thereafter, having executed various deeds predominated by the sacrament of awarding us bliss, this preeminent relative, the supreme regulator, increased the splendor of we who were endowed with those very forms as assumed in the Prakata Lila by enacting his own distinct Leelas, abounding with varieties of mellifluousness uh, in the supreme abodes called Sri Mathura and Sri Varka, which are unapproachable even by Brahma and other such exalted beings.
There's a 50-cent word right there, mellifluousness.
Yeah, those
I'm gonna look that up.
mellifluous. Mellifluous means it's melodious. Oh,
No, I don't think so. Let me ask Siri. Siri, oops. Siri, what does mellifluousness mean? No. Anyway, she doesn't understand what I'm saying.
um, here's
Don't worry about
mellifluous.
it.
It means of a voice or words sweet or musical, pleasant to the ear.
Oh, yeah, like in
Similar,
pastimes, varieties of sweet pastimes.
sweet sounding, sweet toned,
Yeah, yeah,
honeyed, mellowed.
like different sounds on his flute, and all these are like ecstatic. They call them upadis, or no, not upadis, but they call them stimulants for ecstatic love. You know, all the different ways he plays his flute, the way he bends in threefold bending form, and his, peacock feather in his hair, and his footprints. All these are impetuses for ecstatic love when anybody sees it. Just like when Akura came to Vrindavan, he saw Krishna's footprints on the ground, and he just like jumped off the chariot and started rolling around in the dust out of ecstasy because he saw the Krishna's footprints. So they were marked with a flag, a thunderbolt, goading, elephant goad, different aspects. If I seem kind of stuffy right now, it's because I have a cold.
Oh, oh,
I caught my wife's cold. She had it last week. She had the flu, I think. I just got a cold. Sometimes I cough, but I'm not coughing now. I took some Alka-Seltzer severe cold medicine, so hopefully I won't start coughing. And in Sri Vrindavan, let's see. Let me see. You read the next one here.
okay. Um, and in Sri Vrindavan, the self identity, Abhimana, belonging to the residents of Raj, who are exclusively delivered over to Prema, which establishes them each in their own unique relation, certainly discloses itself in the following manner. Let me read that one too. He
Yeah,
who is the splendorous radiance of the abundant fortune of the residents of Gokula is the very object of vision for people like us. The faintest trace of the marks of his feet are fit to be worshipped through oblations in the form of the totality of our lives. He spreads forth a continuous stream of delight beyond what we could ever hope for. He manifested as a translucent blue sapphire appearing from out of the marvelous mine of the magnificent forest called Braj. Like the moon eclipsed by Rahu, he was eclipsed by various malefic planets in the form of Putana and other demons discharged by the demonic king of the Bojas Kamsa. In spite of this, he himself destroyed them by the timely favor of Providence, and appeared before us like the full moon, becoming visible to the Chakora birds.
Yeah, Chikora birds right like the moonlight. Quote, by some power, as if awarded by sages and gods who are pleased by his wonderful attributes of such nature, he protected us again and again from tribulations, not caring for his own difficulties. He nourished us attentively with his sweetness, interlaced with his dexterity in disclosing extremely confidential feelings of intimacy through his personal behavior, form, beauty, attributes, and playful dalliance. He derived an abundance of delight even from a mere semblance of our qualities, however trifling they may be. Whether his sweetness was displayed in precise accord with our longing or exceeded it altogether, he expanded his supreme sweetness, which appeared newly astonishing at every moment. See, that's why Krishna is called Navayovana. He's ever fresh. You never
Navayovana.
get bored with Krishna. He's always like something new is happening, you know? And even when
Mm,
Prabhupada was reading his own books, one time in Mexico City, Muridananda was there as his personal servant. He said he called him in and he was reading his own newly published book, one of the Bhagavatam cantos. He said, have you read these books? And he said, yes, I've read the books, Srila Prabhupada. He said, aren't they wonderful? And so, it's like
mm,
he was reading his own book, but he was saying how wonderful the books are, So that means that really wasn't coming from him. It was coming from Krishna. I mean, Krishna's every
right.
single word in it is like so many different meanings, so many different ways of looking at it. Like Lord Chaitanya would be able to take one verse and explain it in 64 different ways and defeat everything
Mm,
that he said before using the
mm.
same, every single argument. But that's the power of the intellect of people back 500 years ago only. Now we're just like a bunch of, you know, we got the intelligence compared to them, whereas we have the intelligence of a bag full of hammers.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so you can read the next paragraph here.
There's that's
To protect.
to protect all the saintly people, he made known his relation with the Yadavas and went to Mathura to slay the host of demonic kings, personally and through the Yadavas. While residing there for a long period on account of the task at hand, he frequently consoled us, whose hearts were afflicted out of the agony of separation from him, doing so through Uddhava and others. Once again, he was attained as an ocean of nectar by us who had become as if embodiments, murtis, of complete attraction for him, drawn by boundless longing, who then journeyed to Kurukshetra to see him on the pretext of a pilgrimage to a holy place, and in whom only the breaths still remain. Such
Such
being our,
Oh yeah, you
oh,
can read
sorry,
that one.
okay,
Good.
such being our state, he kept us in his proximity for a few months, while exhibiting various signs of his affection for us, exceeding in confidentiality even those shown to the Yadavas, who vainly hold to the pride of being supreme among his own people. By his insinuations, such as, I am yours alone, he repeatedly vivified us on all sides. Having firmly asserted Sri Vrindavan alone is the place supremely longed for by you and me, and by me as well, and instilling faith in us by promising that he would quickly return, he enthusiastically sent us back to Vrindavan.
Okay, this is the Rajabasis telling the story of how he left and how he would return. Fearing that in the absence of his return, we might already have resolved to give up our lives in millions, he quickly returned to Gokul at once, even without even completing his other remaining duties. Then, pulling out us out from the mouth of the snake of separation from him, he remains engaged in sprinkling us with the consummate nectar of the vision of him. In this regard, he remains engaged in nourishing us by the exclusivity of his own unique nature, abounding with a plenum of affection not to be found anywhere else, and renewing itself at each and every moment by gathering together receptacles brimming with ambrosial water for us to drink in the form of his beauty, by the supreme enjoyment we derive from his unparalleled prosperity exhibited in the form of his multifarious ornaments made of gems and flowers, by establishing an extraordinary hub of the sweetness of his play, by the celebration of his astonishing wisdom shining forth in the form of the totality of his charming attributes, by his frolicking or frolics in the form of tending the cows, calling the cows, playing like a child, and playing the flute bewitchingly as if casting a spell by means of a mantra, and by making a grand display of his charming cleverness exhibited in the form of his play of departing from Gokul and returning once again, and by the extremity of love he displays through the unique arts of sporting and delighting friends in an appropriate manner. By all this, he has thrown us into such a frenzy that we are unable to ascertain the comings and goings of time.
Mm.
Go ahead.
According to this principle, after Sri Krishna's return from Dwarka, some of the residents of Raj gave expression at that time to an ecstatic utterance, which then manifested from the mouth of Sri Shuka in the form of the verse Jayatya Jana Nivasa, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48. This is the opinion of some pure devotees of Raj, Srimad Bhagavata, in which such exceptional meanings are distinctly disclosed without any difficulty, containing astonishing uh, signific- uh, signification, um, because it is as a wish fulfilling cow, Kamadenu, for the enlightened. The verse is given as follows: All glories to Sri Krishna, the shelter of all beings, who, although unborn, is said to have taken birth from Devaki. He was encircled by the very best of the Yadavas. By his own arms he dispelled all irreligiosity. He removes the misery of all mobile and immobile beings. By his beautiful smiling face he aroused amorous feelings in the hearts of the women residing in the city known as Raj. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48.
Yeah, the residents of Braja, they don't think that that he took birth from Devaki. They think that's all a scam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Jiva Goswami also explains that with references to scripture. Wait till you hear this; it's pretty good. But it's all in this chapter here. This person who is millions of times dearer to us than our own lives, who by wandering about in all directions dispels the agony of separation from him of all mobile and immobile beings, especially particularly those of Vrindavan, exists in his own supremacy, Jayati. This is to say that his supreme glory is present only in Sri Vrindavan. The love, bhava, that is the existential condition implicit even to the immobile beings of Vrindavan, has been described earlier in the following words. Quote, Indeed, the gopis, cows, trees, deer, snakes, and other beings of undeveloped consciousness realize the object of their lives and easily attain me only through exclusive love. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:12:8.
In what manner is his supreme existence characterized? By his beautiful smiling face, Susmita Sri Mukhana. By this reference, his eternal establishment and the exclusive bliss of aesthetic rapture, rasa, and his perpetual delight in his own associates have been demonstrated. What is he engaged in doing as an expression of his supreme existence? He is engaged in augmenting the amorous love Kamadeva of the youthful women Vanitanam, residing in the city known as Vrajapura, in whom intense affection, Anurag, for Krishna is priorly arisen. The young wives of the cowherd community, because their love, Kama, prevails far beyond all other forms of loving bliss. It is supreme Deva, meaning that the supremely divine Parama Divya in nature. Krishna is engaged in augmenting this all transcending, supremely divine love, Kamadeva of the gopis.
Go ahead and read that one too.
Um, okay. But people in general proclaim he is the son of Devaki. So why do you people of Raj hold to the self concept that he belongs to you? In reply, it is said the idea that he took birth from Devaki is idle talk, vada, meaning that it is false, mithya, being nothing more than a public opinion, loka kyati.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's just a
Yeah.
rumor. It's just a rumor that he was born of Devaki. He's actually
Um,
Yashoda's.
those are possessive for him.
Then why is he called Vasudev, the son of Vasudev? Anticipating this question, Sri Suka replies with the words Janadevasa. This is he is so called because he is the place, abidance, Nivasa, meaning the ultimate refuge, Ashraya, of the people, Jana, which is to say of us, Ashmakam, who are his own people, Swajana. Alternatively, he is designated as such because he resides, Nivasa, among us, his own people, Swajana. The name Vasudev is a compound composed of the word Vasu and Deva. The word Vasu is formed by applying the una suffix to the verbal root vas, to live, in the sense of the agent of the act of existing, or the substratum, i.e., the prior condition and underlying support of the possibility of existing. The word deva is formed by applying the hc suffix to the verbal root div, to play. Thus, he who lives among us is and plays with us, Deva, as a distinct individual, Vigraha, is Vasudeva. The sense that even the statement of Gargamuni, quote, previously this son of yours was born elsewhere to Vasudeva, end quote, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-14, is of no consequence to us, the residents of Raja. But
For what reason has he become known to the son of Devaki? Anticipating this question, Sri Shuka replies with the second line of the verse, the compound Yaruvara Parishat. He that who was encircled by the very best of the Yadavas refers to he who has for his assistants Parishat, the best of the Yadus, Yaruvara, being of such nature, the purpose of his being assisted by the best of the Yadus is to dispel Asyan, the wicked who are exceeding irreligious Adharmam, by his own Sva Dorbihi, meaning through Arjuna and others who are effectively his own arms. This interpretation is substantiated by the suffix applied on the verbal root asu to drive away, in the sense of pointing out a defining characteristic of the agent of the verb and the purpose of the actions being performed, recognizing that if he were acclaimed as the one who took birth from Devaki, the best of the Yadus would become his assistants. He made it a matter of public knowledge, Vada, that he had taken birth from her, Devaki Janma. This is uh, what is being indicated in Sri Krishna's words to Nanda Maharaj after killing Kamsa.
so this is interesting because it says that Krishna works like Arjuna is his arms, right? He works. He become Krishna's arms become his arms in the
Mm.
battlefield. So Krishna can engage us too. He can, Krishna can empower us to do whatever he's empowering us to do. He wants us to do. It's just we have to just surrender to him, and then he invests us with his potency to do really difficult things. I mean, Arjuna had to uh, find his way through that massive warriors who were very good. I mean, Bhishma, he was the greatest warrior of all time, and Dronacharya and all those guys, they were like Maharatis. They could uh, combat 1,000 soldiers at a time. So he had to contend with all of those warriors, and all he did is surrender to Krishna, and that's all Krishna wanted him to do. But he wanted him to fight. So the bottom line of the Bhagavad Gita is just to surrender and to him, and then as you surrender to me, Krishna says, I reward them accordingly. In other words, I give you more and more ability to do more, and so we can have unlimited service. In the material world, the boss always wants us to work with little less pay, and the workers want less work and more pay. But in the spiritual world, in the spiritual relationship between Krishna and his servant, the the servant wants uh, more work and no pay,
Mhm.
because it's all selfless. That's what the gopis were doing. It was selfless service, and when you do that, you're like a you become a transparent medium for Krishna's words and his deeds. You become a walking Bhagavat. You become a walking, talking um, incarnation of Krishna's pastimes and intention on this planet. Emerson used to say that. He said, God like appears on these different. It's nice to understand that, there's a lot of godly people walking around that are just like they have God in human form. They're representatives of God. And so they should be honored as God. And, in New Vrindavan, I grew up in New Vrindavan, I came there in the 70s. Um, and New Vrindavan used to be, have you ever been there? I forgot if I asked you.
Yeah, I've been there twice, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, back in the day, we had to go through this road. It was called the Agasura Road to the little cabin farmhouse on the top of the hill on the other side of the ridge, and it was like a snake winding its way through the jungle of New Vrindavan, and it wasn't paved, and half the time it was impassable because if it rained in the springtime, especially, there was so much mud. And so we always had boots. If you ever came from a city temple, the first thing, it was kind of like a communist situation because everything was provided by the authorities. It was like a communist system. You didn't have to, get all your amenities for living. You'd get immediately when you came there. There's a big uh, trailer full of stuff for new people because it was growing pretty good at that point. When I came there in 1977, 8. And so uh, immediately a brahmachari would get uh, a pair of boots and a toothbrush. You need boots because it's all mud. They used to say New Vrindavan means mud.
Yeah.
And so, like they call devotees walking books, because they're so much knowledgeable. They're like walking books. But in New Vrindavan, they are walking books with boots on. So, yeah,
That's
I just thought
that's
I'd let.
really not Muslim.
So yeah, you have to, we had to trudge up that road, and a lot of times brahmacharis would get stuck in the mud and they'd lift their foot, and they were so frustrated because there's so much mud. Sometimes they'd lift their foot and the boot would get stuck in the mud, and so they just sit down and start. One guy just started crying because he couldn't even he couldn't even walk, so much mud. But let's see here. Where are we? Okay, so
The next page, I think.
for what reason is he known as a son of Devaki? You read the last one, right?
I think I did. Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
read that.
For
The
what
next
reason has he become the son of Devaki? Anticipating this question, Sri Shuka replies with the second line of the verse. The compound Yadu Vara Parisat, quote, he was encircled by the very best of the Yadavas, end quote, referring to he who has for his assistants Parisat, the best of the Yadus, Yaduvara. Being of such nature, the purpose of his being assisted by the best of the Yadus is to dispel Asyan, the wicked, who are exceedingly irreligious, Adharmam, by his own arms, Svadorbi, meaning through Arjuna. We read that already,
one.
didn't we? Yeah, we read that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go read. It's good to read it again. It's new every time, but you can read the next two paragraphs here.
Our dear Father, please return to Vraj. After administering to the happiness of our beloved friends, Surhridam, we both shall come to see you, our own kinsmen, Gyanatan, who are afflicted out of affection for us. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:45-23. In this verse under discussion, in this verse under discussion, 10 Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48, the substantive uh, Vishesha in the form of Sri Krishna is determined on the basis of its qualifying phrase Visheshana Devaki Janma Vada as the poetic expression. This entity, which interrupts the sleep, literally the state of closure of the lotus flowers, is now rising. The Sahitya Darpana 9-6.
My name is Shikshasika, and in the verse that's translated by Srila Prabhupada, it goes, it's the benediction moon that spreads it over the population. All glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. But actually, another translation is it's see when the moon hits a lotus flower, it opens up. It's a night blooming lotus. There are two different lotuses. There's a night blooming lotus and a day blooming lotus. One is woken up by the sun, and the other is woken up by the moon. And in the the night blooming lotuses, it says that the moon is very nourishing to the plants. It's like it gives uh, nourishment to the plants. And so when it opens the petals of benediction from the moon's rays, the other, if you look in the Bhakti Siddhantas, it says, Glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together, extinguishes the fire of conditioned life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large. It it it's no the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, the holy name of Krishna cleanses the mirror of the heart and extinguishes the fire of suffering in this material world. And it is the benediction moon which spreads the lotus it spreads the lotus flower of benediction. Anyway, it's something like that, but that's another interpretation. I like that more. I like that translation better because spreading the rays of the benediction moon is not as like interesting as the moon hitting the lotus flowers and then the blooming.
Yeah,
That's why I like that translation better. Not that Prabhupada has any deficiency in his Sanskrit scholarship, but let's see. We'll just read one paragraph at a time here until the end. This is the commentary now. So this is Sri Satyayana Das, his commentary. Um, you can go ahead and read the first paragraph.
okay. The Sri Jiva Goswami began explaining the ontological structure of the Prakata and Aprakata Leelas in Anuccheda 171. He explained how the two Leela domains exist eternally without one being superimposed onto the other. Just as Krishna has various Prakash forms, so too do his abodes and associates. These two Leelas unfold in parallel fashion, unknown to each other. Sri Jiva laid out the chronology of Krishna's Leela in the Prakash and showed that Krishna returned to Braj after killing Dantavakra. Thereafter, Krishna lived in Braj for 2 months and then withdrew his Prakata Leela, merging into the Aprakata Prakash. Then returned to Dwarka in its own Prakata domain and lived there for an extended period.
Okay, I'll read the other one. We'll do one paragraph at a time. So Krishna, uh, he came to Raja and he lived there for 2 months, and then he withdrew his Prakata Lila, and he merged it into the transcendental, the Aprakata Prakash, the unmanifested spiritual Lila. And then he went back to Dwarka to live with his queens for a long time. He lived for 125 years. He was still only a teenager though.
Uh,
Like he was like a young boy, like
yeah.
16. I bet you all the old ladies would like some of that, uh, you know, lotion to stay young looking. Sri Jiva went on to explain that the gopis regarded Krishna as their paramour, Jarabudi, but they attained him ultimately as their husband, Ramana, just before the withdrawal of the Braja Prakatalila. In other words, the gopis have two types of relation with Krishna. In the Prakatalila, they view themselves as the married wives of the coward men, but whose love is exclusively for Krishna. In the Aprakata Lila, however, they are the married wives of Krishna by their very intrinsic nature. Sri Jiva undertook a lengthy analysis of Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 12, 13 to prove this point. Go ahead.
In this Anuccheda, Sri Jiva has very beautifully depicted the loving mood bhava of Krishna's associate, both in Dwarka as well as in Braj. In the two illustrative passages, his skillful use of poetical language is something that can be truly relished only in the original. Krishna's associates are so immersed in loving exchanges with him, and in recollecting and relating his Leelas, that they are devoid of awareness of the difference between the Prakata and the Aprakata Leelas. They cannot so much as ascertain the movements of time. This is the meaning of the statement that time is not subject to the passing away in Goloka. Vrijat, Vrijati nahi yatrapi samayaha. Brahma Samhita 556, Nacha Kala Vikramaha, Srimad
Yeah,
Bhagavatam
kala means
9.
time. In other words, uh, they just lost track of time because it's just so ecstatic. So they didn't know whether it was the Prakata Lila or the Upperkata Lila. So it was just like a segue uh, was really smooth, from one to the other. Sri Jiva himself seems to have been in a cheerful spirit after illuminating the bhava of the Brajavasis. In this mood, he revels in the primary verse of this Anuccheda, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48. He thus discloses the fact that although, according to the Bhagavat, this verse is spoken by Shukadev, it is actually an utterance of the Brajavasis made out of sheer joy when their beloved Krishna had returned to Braja from Dwarka. Sri Jiva writes that Srimad Bhagavat is like a wish-fulfilling cow for the enlightened devotees, and thus it can reveal esoteric meanings to them. In this connection, he interprets this verse in the devotional temperament of the Brajavasis. Earlier in Anuccheda 115, the same verse was analyzed as describing Krishna both in Dwarka as well as in Braja. Here, however, Sri Jiva interprets it as referring to Krishna exclusively in Vraj. So this means that you know what the pastime of the Rath Yatra is all about? The Chariot Festival.
Not
Yeah,
really.
in Detroit, the northern part of Detroit, they have a Rath Yatra festival every year there. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but
No, I haven't been to those over there. I've been to some of them around here where I'm from. They have a couple of little small ones.
yeah, yeah. But
Cart and
the
stuff.
big one is in like northern Detroit. But the whole pastime of the Braj of Rath Yatra is that, and Lord Chaitanya was relishing this mood of the gopis, of the Brajavasis who wanted Krishna to come back to Braja. That's, and Radharani, she was saying, she saw Krishna and she was, I'm the same lover and he's the same person too. But, she wasn't feeling the same because in the midst of this princely atmosphere and this and all the kings and soldiers and all the other associates of the Yadavas and everything, she didn't feel the same. She wanted to be by the bank of the Yamuna underneath a vatasi tree. She wanted to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan, his home. And so they were so pleased that he came back to Vrindavan that they were just like simply delighted. And then Krishna just picked him up and put him on his chariot and took him back to Godhead. And then he went back to Vraja. And then so they had the two pastimes, or more than one pastime. Like the Vrajavasis were all in the spiritual world at that point. I don't know if they still had their material bodies in the material world, or they were just or all their spiritual bodies went back to Godhead. But he put them all on his chariot, and they went to Goloka Vrindavan, which is non-different from the Vrindavan, but it was like a really smooth segue from one to the other, and that's why it says it's not different. So you can read the next paragraph. Uh,
Sri, Sri Jiva himself seems to have been in a cheerful spirit after eliminating the Baba
Oh, wait, I
of the
read that already.
Vrajavasi.
It's the next one. The next two. Read the next two. The verb
Uh,
jayati.
the, the verb jayati is often used simply to pronounce the glory of God or of those individuals who are especially worthy of honor. Here, however, it implies Krishna's establishment and the supremacy of his own existence in the midst of his eternal associates in Vraj. Since jayati is expressed in the present tense, it implies his eternal or continuous presence in such a state of being, just as the verb flows in the sentence "the Ganga flows to the ocean" signifies continuity of the action of flowing. In Anuccheda 115, where the same verse is quoted, the compound Vrajapura it was interpreted to mean Vraja and the cities Pura of Dwarka and Mathura, taking it as a Dvandva compound in which the elements have a coordinate relationship with each other, meditating or mediate through the conjunction, and here in the Anuccheda, Brajapura is glossed instead as city of Braj, considering it as a karma dharaya compound in which the elements have a relationship of modifier and modified.
The word vanita means a beloved woman. Amar Kosh 3374. And here it refers to the gopis. Kamadev is usually translated as Cupid. Here, however, it refers to the gopis' love for Krishna. The word kama, when used in reference to the gopis, means prema, or divine love. Premaiva gopi ramanam kami kama iti agamat pratam. The word vada means talk, a statement, allegation, doctrine, theory, reply, controversy, or dispute. Sri Jiva comments from the Brajabasi's point of view that the idea that Krishna took birth from Devaki is mere idle talk. Devaki Janmavada. Alternatively, if the word Devaki is taken to mean, quote, Yashoda, end quote, as discussed earlier, then the compound Devaki Janmavad would mean that Krishna is famed as the one who took birth from Yashoda. So that's another name for Yashoda, is Devaki. The word Jana, people, means Swajana, or Krishna's own people, end quote, because he lives with them eternally. He is called Jana Devasa. I'll read
Mm. The
next.
word Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, which is popular name of Krishna, is not actually mentioned in the verse. Yet someone might still raise the objection that since Krishna is well known by this name, it is thus to be concluded that he is the son of Devaki, who is the wife of Vasudeva. To counter such an argument within the context of the verse's exclusive Raja interpretation, Sri Jiva provides the etymological analysis of this name, showing that it refers to he who lives, Vasu, among the Vrajavasis, plays Deva with them.
Good.
Uh, why then is there talk, Vada, that Krishna is the son of Devaki? Sri Jiva replies that Krishna circulated this rumor so that he could easily befriend the Yadava heroes and thus accomplish the task of killing unrighteous kings with their help. The verb asyan is in the present continuous tense and formed by applying the fatra suffix, the present participle uh, on the root asu to drive away or dispel. This suffix is applied in the sense of characteristic nature, lakshana, uh, and the and cause hetu. This indicates that it is Krishna's nature to uproot the asuras, and this is the reason why he is elicited elicited the friendship of the Yadu heroes. Krishna understood if the Yadavas believed him to have been born from Devaki, they would naturally be friendly with him on the basis of the shared clan relation. The Vrajavasis, however, do not believe that he was actually born from Devaki.
Yeah, so he used that pretext to tell them, actually, I'm the son of Devaki, just to get all the soldiers together so he could kill all the demons. This is why Krishna refers to the Brajavasis as Gnatim, kinsmen, and to the Yadavas as Suridam, friends, as in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:45-23. See, he refers to the Brajavasis as kinsmen and the Yadavas as friends. That means he's related directly to the Brajavasis and not really uh, to the Yadavas, even though they're clansmen, they're related as a clan. They were not directly related. Krishna's name is not directly mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48. The unspecified subject is to be identified only through its modifiers, such as Jana Nivasa, Devaki Janmavada, and Sthirachara Vijnana Gna. Sri Jiva Goswami writes that the substantive or qualifying Visheshya can be understood as Krishna from its qualifier, Visheshana. Devaki Janmavad is since no one else is celebrated as the son of Devaki. To illustrate this point, he gives an example from Sahiti Darpana. In this poetic expression, the word son is not as the subject, but it is understood from its qualifying compound, mudra bhajana, or that which interrupts the sleep of the lotuses. See, yeah, the lotuses are sleeping. The day lotuses they bloom in the sunshine. So the sun interrupts the sleep of the lotus. So we'll stop here. It's almost an hour we've been going so far. Have any
Nice.
questions or? Comments?
Um, no, not really. Um, Thanks for sharing with me that, the piranhas that eventually I'm going to
I
listen to
can send it to
your
you if you want. I
audiobook.
can send you the whole Piranha.
Yeah, if you would, I'd
I
appreciate that
can't.
because
I can
eventually,
not a book form, but I get all this stuff from my audiobook mentor, and he sent me the whole Padma Purana, all 50,000 verses.
oh wow, is it English? Are all the
Yeah,
piranhas
yeah.
translated in English? I'm wondering
No,
about that. I'm wondering.
not all of them. No,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a lot of work
an
to do.
issue, isn't it? Yeah, that's kind of depressing. I wish they were all nicely
Yeah, look,
translated at
you're
least.
young and you still got a lot of time. Look, I was in anxiety after I read all the Providence books because I thought, oh my God, what am I going to read? I was like a genie out of the bottle. But then I realized, oh yeah, there's a Mahabharat, there's a Ramayana, and then I thought, oh wait a minute, there's the Goswami literature, and there's like a ton of Goswami literature, especially Jiva Goswami. I mean, this is a multiple volume, just this one Krishna Sandarbha. I mean, he's also got the Priti Sandarbha, the Krama Sandarbha, and the Bhakti Sandarbha, and they're all like multi volume books, you know.
Hmm.
So, you got a lot of books, you got a lot to read,
Yeah,
one thing at a time, and
right.
you can't read them all at once, it's not possible. So you usually devotees start with the nectar of instruction, and then they go to the Bhagavad Gita and uh, nectar of devotion, teachings of the Lord Chaitanya, and then they go on to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then that's the graduate study. When you're once you finish the Bhagavad Gita, that's just like a Krishna consciousness 101. And you learn how to surrender to Krishna. And then when you start with the Bhagavatam, you learn how to act in Krishna consciousness. And that's a graduate study. And then you go on to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that's like the postgraduate study of Krishna consciousness. It's like graduate school.
Did you read the that Ujvala Nilamani? Did you make an
Yeah, I did.
audiobook of that too?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can look that up. I mean, it's all on that little uh that's a really nectar book. I mean, it's like an expansion of a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it's even more detailed and more confidential.
I've read
Ujjwala
about half of it. I haven't continued to read it because I thought, wow, this is really, this
Yeah,
is pretty
it's
advanced.
really beautiful. And like Rupa Goswami wrote that, and Ujjwala Nilamani is like I think it's two but anyway, it's in my SP 108, tiny URL there. All of the books are in there. And let me look real quick, see how long it is.
You said
Uh,
you got a mentor. He's suggesting to you
yeah, see,
what to
because
read.
I'm just so retarded that I can't figure out how to download the database. And so he helps me out with it. The database, it used to cost like $500, to download it, but now it's free. But I can't manage. So I just depend on him. What do you want me to read next? And so he feeds me books. He knows,
Oh,
I
that's
mean, he
cool.
works he works for the BBT. So I got
I
a
got a
lot.
question. Do you happen is this something that exists? Is there a list of all the authoritative literatures that are tied to this Gaudiya Vaishnava Vedic tree? Or like, because
Yeah, I
I
mean,
haven't heard of
there's
them.
not a list, but I've read a lot of them, and so all the ones I've read are bona fide. Even this one, even though the devotee that wrote this, there was a little bit of controversy about him because he was saying something about the devotees coming from the spiritual world, they never fall down, and that was like contrary to Bhakti Vinod's conclusions of the uh, of the process of the jiva entering into the material world, and he was really adamant about it, and he was fighting with devotees, and he left. He left the association of devotees who took initiation from somebody else. But still, this devotee who translated it and made commentary on this book, he's brilliant. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't not use that in Krishna's service, you know. And he kind of like made up with the devotees after that little kerfuffle. You know, he kind of like said it's not a big deal. We're not, you know. He told it. He's got followers too, you know. So he told them it's not a big deal. There's not that much difference between what I'm saying and what they're saying, you know. So it didn't end up to be such a big deal, but there was that little. I mean, if you're talking about, you know, strict Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya, you know, even this guy is not really 100% accepted, but and just in that regard, but he knows he really, I would say that all these books, he's he's this one is this Krishna Sandarbha he wrote, I think, 5 years ago. Translated. That's the latest one. I've got one left, the Priti Samdarbha, which is the most advanced one, you know, like talks about the confidential pastimes and everything.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the Ujjwala Nilamani of the Sandarbhas.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, thank you for joining and
Thank you for having me.
hope
Appreciate
to
it.
see you next week.
Yeah, let's see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.